So I've facilitated a cancer support group now for 21 years. In 2005, I was diagnosed with high grade urothelial cancer in my bladder, 5 tumors in there, and Sloan Kettering removed my bladder, prostate, and a section of my ureter called a radical cystectomy. They removed the prostate, prostatectomy, whatever the word is, and that launched my journey of many surgeries, and then it became metastatic 10 years later and was given a death sentence. And so I didn't want to talk about like how do you deal with future, in that I think I'll do that in another video. The gist for me is I'm glad I didn't know the future. I'm glad I was forced to live one day at a time kind of thing, and I like that premise that comes in the Serenity Prayer. But today I just wanted to talk about something that I've really heard a lot in the times I've done cancer support for folks, and I've done journeys with a lot of people, and some have been end of life journeys and some have been basically survivorship and moving on this earth. And so I've done both, but I've done the whole thing from soup to nuts, getting the call after the diagnosis and then doing the journey with the person. And it's been my privilege to do that. And a whole nother topic would be what qualified me. And I didn't have any training to step into people's lives other than the fact that I myself am a cancer patient. So how did I want to be treated? Treat others as you would want to be treated. And how did I step into a place where I could sit in the dirt with someone going through cancer? We do that. That principle of sitting in the dirt is a big one for me. But the topic I wanted to mention today, as I stepped into the dirt with folks, was that perennial question of why. Why did I get this cancer? Why is this happening to me? And so, I would, in my own journey, as I struggled with that question of why, I would think about being in a sick place, being in a sick world, a broken world, where sickness is part of it. And then as a Christ follower, recognizing that there's an enemy of our souls, that through Scripture, when he's given permission to afflict a person's life, a Christ follower's life, but what does the non-physical but the spiritual world hold in this? What role does it play in a person's cancer journey? And it's the unseen world, as Scripture would call it. I do believe in the unseen world. And so, there's other times when Jesus did healings, there was a belief of that a person's sin or something they did wrong caused this illness in their lives. And there is evidence that God uses illness in Scripture to bring them into a place of relationship with him, right? And there's other places in Scripture where it says that's not what this is about at all, but that God's hand is seen in this person's journey. So I come at my cancer journey through the lens of a Christ follower, because I was a Christ follower first, and then through my journey that became even more solidified in my dependency on Jesus through this journey as my higher power. And so I can back this up scripturally, but I believe that my cancer journey was filtered through God's hands first, that he had the final say. He was in charge of of me getting cancer and then actually living through it and experiencing it, that that it filtered through his hands first. This was really something like when we talk about causal agent. This was a cancer for me personally that I didn't fit into any of the risk categories for. I was 40s at my time, in great shape. I had never smoked cigarettes at all. So all those things that they knew of, working around chemicals, smoking cigarettes, being in your 60s, were not part of my journey. And there's a sense of, in Scripture, of the journey of a man named Job, where he was an innocent sufferer, and I don't want to go into his journey right now, but just the fact that God had a purpose in his journey, and that he had a dialogue with the enemy, Satan, at the time, and he allowed Satan to bring certain harms to Job and his physicality. And I when I say innocent, I don't mean a person who's sinless or perfect. I mean a person who didn't make a choice to bring this upon themselves. And so how I get back to my higher power, it's really critical for my journey. But just the fact that this was filtered through his hands first, and there is a reason, a purpose for it. I don't know if that speaks to you. It speaks to me as I do my journey. There's been so many events and so many questions, but it has helped me to bring myself to a place of acceptance and purpose in it, and to recognize God's power in it. Okay. I don't know if that helps, but it helps me. Thanks. Bye.